Today's the day where I make the color correction video for the DJI Mini 2. And it's really simple. Actually, one of these points in here, yep, number 4, it's not scientific. It is not scientific. It's basically me playing around with 3 color wheels. There is a very specific way, a way that you should do color correction. I do know it. I use it for like D-Log when I'm shooting with the Sony a7 III or the S3 or the R3. But with this guy, I keep it so simple, you wouldn't believe it. Actually, you're gonna watch this, you're gonna be like, really, that's it? Yeah, it's simple. It's very, very simple. There's nothing to it. We're gonna use 3 color wheels. We might use a little slider to get the temperature up and down, a little bit of the tint, and that's it. Your color grading is done, and that is how I've done it for every single one of the Mini 2 videos you have seen on my channel. Super simple. And at the end, if you're really too lazy to color grade, I will drop a few LUTs that you're gonna be able to buy off my site. Boom. I have a few points here. Number 1, you can't polish a turd. I think that should be the title of this video. You can't polish a turd. It's a saying, and it's very, very true. Actually, number 5 is light. These two go together. You can't polish a turd and light. Boom. If you're filming and the light is crap and you're trying to color correct it, there is absolutely no way you're going to do it. It's going to look horrible. It's still going to look like a turd, no matter how much you polish it. But if you've taken the time to find a place, a beautiful scene with incredible light, you're at magic hour, the sun's coming up, something's going on, you can polish that. And you can make it look like $1 million. And a lot of the time with this little guy, there's really not much to do. Number 2, this is personal preference to a degree. You can really screw up color grading, and it's very easy to do. Just the sliders, you can screw it up. You can make it look unnatural and horrible. My point is to make it look as natural as possible. It's the feeling that we had when we saw that image. We're like, whoa, that's incredible. The second you took your eyes up and you looked at that scene, that is what I'm trying to replicate, because it doesn't come out of the drone. The drone, the camera, D-Log, everything, it sees very differently than we do. We need to add a little bit of, magic to make it perfect. Number 3, don't overdo it. It's basically what number 2 is about. Don't overdo it. Keep it natural. If you put that slider a little bit too far up, a little bit too much contrast, a little bit too much saturation, you're screwed. You've basically turned it into a cartoon. 4, not scientific. 5, light. 6, filters. There is a filter on my drone right now. Can you guys see it? Right. I use filters for every single camera I have. I'm lucky because I get sent filters from Freewell, but before I did, I had a ton of Polar Pro and Tiffin filters. I use filters for every single camera, tiny, big, large, whatever I have, and the Mini 2 has a filter on it every single time it's out, unless it's dark. Filters are very important. They will let you keep with a 180-degree rule, and they will make your footage look damn sweet. And that's about it. Now, I'm just going to show you a little kind of, put together piece. It's 3 minutes. It's me and my radio voice just going to manipulate your emotions for a minute. And once that's done, we're going to jump straight into that very noisy MacBook, and we're going to edit, 3 or 4 scenes just to show you how simple it is. Now, you're going to see the color correction slide in, and at the end it will probably slide out. That's what these 3 minutes are going to look like. Check it out. Let me know what you think. If we have no light, there is no color. Light is what makes up color. It brings our image to life. It's so magical. It's no doubt one of the most important parts of your image. Now, I'm not a fan of an abundance of light unless I'm on the beach, especially when flying a drone. I like it when my image is full of soul. It's dark and moody. I like it when it's natural, or at least it portrays what we perceive to be real or natural in a cinematic way. We see and feel colours very differently than your camera does. And it's about bringing back those colours, that feeling, bring it right back. When you stood on top of that mountain, when you drove by in a car, it's that feeling, that look that we're going for. It's not meant to be surreal. It can be whatever you want. But what I'm going to show you is how to make it natural. How to make it look like it did. To make it pop. Because we are creators. We're here to tell stories. Don't fly next to those. We're not here to replicate reality perfectly, but we're here to immerse people in the story, to evoke a feeling, an emotion, and that's easily done if you know how. Capturing, manipulating your audience is part of the job. But it's important. It's imperative they don't see you do it, or it's game over. You'll be finished. So what I meant by there is a way to color grade everything. Exposure. Make sure exposure is correct. White balance. Make sure the white balance is correct. Contrast. And then you can go into color grading, and then you can do like a special color grade if you wish. That's how I do it. We can do it on this footage. Let's do it together. So as you can see here, this is a color graded piece. This was me in the Swiss Alps, evening time. It was quite freezing cold. It was dark. The color temperature was no doubt quite high, but I had mine at 5,600. So if we revert everything here, you'll see it looked really bad straight out of the camera. Now, the Mini 2 doesn't have D-Log or anything, so it's very almost perfect when it comes out, but it does need a bit of, a bit of a polish to make it look perfect. Let me just show you. On the left-hand side of the screen at the top, we have the vector scope. That's used to show you more or less where your colors are, what color they're going towards, and the little line on the left top-hand side is the skin color you should be aiming for. The RGB parade will basically show me if my color correction is in the right area, if I want it to be perfect. And the luma is basically light and dark. So as you can see, as I pull the highlights up, it will go up. Now 100 is more or less as much white as you're going to get. Above 100, it's going to clip. Same with the 0 at the bottom here. If you hit touch shadows and you pull it down, anything below 0 will just be pure black and it will not have any detail in it at all. So let me quickly put this back to how it was, reset parameter. We're going to use these color wheels. The global is basically everything. Shadows is your shadows, highlights are your highlights, midtones are your midtones, temperature, tint. On the right hand side you have the exposure of each one, on the left hand side you have the saturation of each one. So I'm going to put my color temperature up to about 8,500. My tint may be down a little bit, and as you can see, that's already helped the RGB parade get more or less in. So we're going to get the global, and we're going to kind of like muddle around a little bit to see where it is they can be perfect, and that already looks good. Now, if we get the shadows, there might be a little bit of blue in the shadows. Let's just pull that towards right there, and the highlights, I can see there's a little bit of blue tint in them. There we go, that looks almost good. And that looks pretty cool. Now, I've done it backwards, obviously. If we pull up the highlights and we get them almost at 100, because as you can see, the mountain at the top, I want that coming out, and that's snow. And the sky is white, so this is a really difficult situation here. We're going to pull the midtones down a little bit, just to get those trees out, and we're going to crush the shadows a little bit, just a tiny bit. And now you can see that the highlights have gone off again, so we're going to just move a little bit towards the red, and I'm going to desaturate, so this left slider here, desaturate it a little bit, and the same with these. If you saturate it, you can see what happens. So we're going to pull it down, same with the highlights, and to me that already looks like a million times better. So on, off. And that is more or less what I'll do. If I'm in a situation like this, I'm going to desaturate it a little bit, because it is snow and it's basically monochromatic with the trees looking kind of, especially at night time. This is the look it looked like. This is what I remember in my mind. Let's go on to the next one. So we have this. This is just after we lost the Air 2S, and as you can see, the sun has gone down, or almost gone down. The trees are pretty dark, and I'm kind of happy with the color it is here. But if we just pull up a little bit, as you can see, the Luma is just right there. I don't want it to go too much further because I don't want to lose the detail in the clouds right here. But if we pull up the midtones, you can see it reveals quite a lot of information in the trees. If you were to do that with the shadows, everything just goes milky and horrible. So what I recommend you do is you pull up the midtones a little bit, and then to counter that, just a tiny bit, get a little bit of, just so it's not underneath the zero, but pull it down a bit. So now you can see that that's already brought the image back quite a bit. I want to cool it down a little bit, and I want to add a bit of magenta, like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to also add a bit of saturation, pull it down in the darks, add it in the highlights, and if you can see what happens in the highlights, if we put it all the way to the end and make it look very cartoony, you can see what happens. We don't want that much. We just want it to look a little bit more like a sunset. So if we play it back now, that already for me looks stunning, and it does look natural, and it looks like what I remember it to look like. It was very, very powerful that day. And if we turn it on and off, you can see that it makes quite the difference. You can obviously alter it as much as you want. You can put the saturation and highlights down, so maybe it's a little bit more natural, but that's more or less what it looks like. Now, this was when we got to the Swiss Alps. It was nighttime, the sun had gone down, the moon was there. It looked absolutely stunning. Right here, I would probably do the same thing. I'm happy with how blue it is. So if we just click on it, I'm happy with how blue it is. Let's turn on the color wheels. I might just add a little bit of warmth. I might add a little bit of green. Now, what I want to do is I want to get the light up just a tiny bit. It's not pure white back there. I want to get the midtones up because I want those trees. See, there's absolutely nothing in those trees. If we put the midtones up a bit or even more, you can see that the trees have detail. But if we do it up just so it's a little bit more natural and just crush the bracts just a tiny, tiny bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the saturation here. I'm going to increase the saturation in the highlights. And that is just about it. That is what you saw. This is 3200 ISO, by the way, on the Mini 2. Looks fantastic. And that's more or less what I've done. If you look at it without, it's very subtle, but it brings out what I want. So this one I love. This is just a stunning shot I'm really proud of. So if we bring down the midtones, bring up the shadows a little bit so we get that detail out there. Remember, we don't want to go past zero. And we just pop the saturation, especially in the highlights. And what I want to do is I want to get these highlights looking pink. There we go, pink sky. So when I was there, I just remember the sky being really, really pink. It looked like a sweet factory. So I was like, whoa, but I want to put these shadows down a little bit in terms of saturation. You see, they're very blue. So if we bring down the saturation whilst keeping the saturation up on the highlights, a little bit down there, pop a little bit of this up here, tiny bit down with the global, and that's it. That's the difference is that. So I've basically popped those colors in the sky, just to make it look exactly how I remembered it. It looks pretty sweety, like a chocolate factory filled with Smarties, but it is how I remember it. It was beautiful out there that night. I've never seen anything like it. The sky was just completely pink. This is in Poland, and it's very simple. All we're going to do here is we're going to bring up all the way up here. We're going to pull down the midtones, pull down the shadows a little bit so it's got a little bit of contrast. We're going to add a little bit of saturation. There we go, in the midtones. And that's it. That's all I've done, and it's given it a completely different look. As you can see, completely different look. It now looks punchy, it looks natural, it looks what autumn looks like in Poland. Stunning. And this is a bonus one I'm going to show you. What we have here is Poland, Zakopane, and we have the moon again. I'm so happy when I can capture the moon. And the scene looks good. The scene looks good. If we get this one, we hide it. As you can see, there is no color correction at all. But if we open this up, you can see what's happened. Let's have a look. Let's turn this on and off so you can see. So the sky has darkened. And what I've done here is I've copied by touching Option, Drag. I've copied the bottom clip again, and I've put a mask on it. And I've darkened the sky, as you can see. And it's made a difference completely to the sky. And so what I'm going to basically do now is go into here, so you can turn off the side panel here. I'm going to get a adjustment layer, put it on top, drag it over the top, there we go, hide that. And on the adjustment layer now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the highlights a little bit, midtones up a bit, shadows down a tiny bit. I'm going to add a little bit of saturation, especially in the highlights there. See what happens? Sky completely goes blue. I'm going to add a little bit of temperature. And that is how I remember it. It was kind of this yellowy sky going into blue. And that's what that looks like. The Mini 2 is a fantastic tool. It really is beautiful. You don't need much to create these looks. Now, for example, if we go into what we created here and we turn off the color grade and we go back into here, we type in under effects, not calculator, sorry. Under effects, we type in LUT and we pull over the custom LUT over here. Now that we've done that, all we have to do is pick a custom LUT. So for example, we're going to pick a recent LUT, which is going to be sunset. And that has more or less created the image that we created earlier on. Now you can mix it, so if it's a little bit too strong for your footage, you can mix it. LUTs aren't meant to perfect your footage like that. They're meant to be used whilst mixing. So every single piece of footage is different, just like every single person. You have to slightly mix it, you have to change it around. So we're going to go into here. We are going to turn on color wheels and we're going to reset them. And now that we have this LUT on here at 100%, it's looking good. What I want to do is I just want to pull up those midtones, drop the shadows a bit, and that is more or less what I like. I can get those highlights down a tiny bit and pop them. LUTs, fun. Color grading is awesome fun. I'm sorry my MacBook is so loud, it does annoy me, I'm afraid. This is how we color grade. This is how I color grade all my stuff. I'm sure there are many different ways of color grading. I color grade S-Log from the Sony very differently, but it's all got a specific kind of way. I can push the S-Log a lot more, S-Log free, like so much, compared to the Mini 2. You've got to be very, very delicate so it doesn't turn out cartoony. Any questions? Drop them in the comments below. If you did like my film, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, that would be very much appreciated. I'm going to catch you on the next one.